Hi everybody, it's Brad from Big Family Homestead, and this is another exciting edition of the Homestead Nation. That's right, we're chatting it up with Eric from Life in Farmland channel. This is a cool interview because his channel's not really a big channel yet, but he's a normal guy that just, he made the jump. He used to live in the city and then he moved out and decided, I'm gonna do the farming thing, I'm gonna do the homesteading thing. And so he's got a unique perspective. Check it out. Don't forget to go to the channels. And don't forget to go to Tommy, the Carolina Preppers channel. Make sure that you subscribe to all of these. It really, truly does help us all out. So there you go. Without any further ado, I give you Life in Farmland. Brad with Big Family Homestead. How do you do, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Homestead Nation. Tommy, the Carolina Prepper, and myself are here with Eric from Life in Farmland. How you doing, bro? How's it going, man?
Good.
So tell me, bro, you're up north. We're not going to say any hidden locations or anything, but are we allowed to say the state?
Yeah.
So Minnesota. That must bring some amazing challenges for a guy who's trying to run a farm in the winter. Tell me about a day in January. What's January look like?
January is a little bit of it kind of depends on the chores that we have kind of going. Usually it kind of involves clearing some snow, hauling some firewood in, and hopefully there's a little bit, if we do things right in the summertime, hopefully it gives us a little extra kind of downtime so we can spend time out snowshoeing and playing a lot of hockey or something. So.
And whittling. I've seen whittling.
See, Brad, you can't stump those Southern Canadians.
Yeah.
And you ask them about January, they're like, it's okay.
It's not so bad.
It's pretty nice having, all 4 seasons, so.
Yeah, it's the other 11 months of firewood gathering season.
Yeah.
It really starts to grate on you.
We're pretty fortunate where we at least have a somewhat of a decent growing season and stuff. I know up in Alaska, that's a big challenge for some of them up there is pretty short growing season. We get at least a decent season, so.
So now, for the people who don't know your channel and don't know you, explain what Life in Farmland is all about. What do you guys do? What's your shtick? You have the floor.
It's kind of me running the show a little bit right now, and my wife's kind of getting involved a little bit more.
What is the show, Eric?
We do kind of homesteading stuff. We're not like a full-blown kind of homesteader. I currently work right now. My wife, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but she stays at home and stuff and helps run quite a bit of the show. And kind of try to film some of the projects that we do at home as well as try to share some kind of knowledge and stuff. We're kind of on the journey of chasing kind of some of the skill sets that our grandparents used to use to survive daily. And unfortunately, that's a lot of that is kind of not made it down the chain. And for us, it's a little bit of relearning, and I'm hoping I can kind of share that with others, as well as just some kind of other common homestead or just common skill sets, I guess. I was pretty fortunate. My dad was around, was able to kind of show me how to change oil and kind of handle some of those things. And I know today with a lot of times 2 working parents, it's a little hard as a kid to kind of pick up some of these things. It just life's a lot busier, and I hope I can kind of share some stuff with others, I guess.
Well, Eric, I'm out in the garage 5 minutes before we started filming here, and I'm working on my 4-wheeler. I can't get my kids out there to help me. I'm ready, willing, and able. They're just like, no, I got other things to do.
Fox is calling.
Right, but all kidding aside, and I wasn't kidding, but all kidding aside, it seems as though just in the last couple of generations, we've lost touch with reality, and most of us, not all of us, most of us, pay somebody to mow our lawn, change our oil, clean our house, so on and so forth. We've really lost even the most basic of skills.
Yeah.
What do you tell somebody that maybe didn't grow up with a dad to show them something, or an uncle, or a neighbor? Are there resources out there today that any average Joe Blow with no real experience can learn how to do some of the stuff you're talking about?
YouTube is fantastic. The way I look at things, you can't break what's already broken. So if you got something that's already broke,
I can. I've done that. Broken things that were already broken, but I can break them worse. But I think what it comes down to, and you're right, YouTube's a great source for that. What it comes down to is a lack of confidence. Most of us are so nervous about making it worse or, gee, I don't know how to do that. When in reality, if you give a small job a shot, at least has been my experience, and you're successful, that success breeds more confidence and you're able to take on a bigger job. And most of this stuff isn't rocket science, is it?
No, it really isn't too bad. And it's been, I mean, I guess years of kind of, digging my foot a little bit deeper in that water, I guess. And we had, we're still pretty relatively young in our 30s and stuff, and we've owned a few homes, but most of them have been real starter type homes that involve quite a bit of work. So you start with drywall in that closet to kind of hide your lack of drywall skills and kind of keep going from there,
So tell me a little bit now, in a past conversation, you let us know that you didn't always live the country lifestyle, the farming lifestyle, that you came from the big city. Now, first of all, why would you want to leave the city with all those conveniences?
We were looking for a little bit slower pace of life. We have a 5-year-old daughter and stuff, and today's world, it's pretty easy to kind of bury your head in like your phone or just kind of get tied up in some of that stuff. And we kind of wanted to step back and live a little bit more of a slower paced life and kind of get to know our neighbors a little better. And I don't know, we just kind of wanted out of the race, I guess.
You wanted the simple life.
Yeah.
The chores. Dun, 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 dun. So, but now, tell me about the community that you've said that there are very few people that live nearby you where you're at now, but you've also said that it's a very tight-knit community. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it always works out like this, but we've been very fortunate. Like all our neighbors, I mean, I don't have one negative thing to say about them, and it's amazing how, when something needs to get done, people kind of step up and help each other out. One person might have, a certain animal or something that they can kind of offer up, and someone else might have some heavier equipment or something to help you out in a pinch in some other situation. So, it's just a big difference in life. Like when we lived in the city, it was amazing how someone so close. I mean, you could be out shoveling by hand your driveway or something, and then you got your neighbor over there with this jumbo snowblower, blows his driveway out and quickly gets back inside and forgets all about you. And here we got guys that are driving several miles down the road to come blow you out or help you out and just have a conversation and a beer or a coffee or something. So
that's amazing. You think that's because living out there, you realize help isn't just around the corner. So they you all depend on each other. If something really were to go wrong, you want to know that the neighbor half a mile down the road has your back.
Yeah.
And so it almost lends itself as an opportunity for you all to grow closer when it isn't a real emergency.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of amazing. We're not like, we got about a half-hour drive, maybe a little bit further to kind of get to some decent stores. So, we're not like completely like way out there, but I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
How big is your property that you're on now, homesteading?
We're only on 10 acres, and then we're surrounded pretty much all by farms. So everywhere you just about look, you got some gorgeous sunset or something pretty to look at. So.
And you guys are doing
about your animals and stuff. What do you do, gardening wise, animal wise? What do you do on 10 acres?
Right now we run, I think, a pretty large garden. We have a hard time keeping up with just the weeds and stuff. I'm trying to think how big it is. Maybe like 100 feet by 150 feet or something for our garden. And then we do chickens. And right now, this year is kind of our first year of doing pigs, and we're kind of going in with the neighbors. It kind of gives us the opportunity to kind of give it a little test run without spending all the money on the equipment, feeders, panels, and some of that fun stuff. So the pigs are actually down at their house, and then we just stop down and check on them and try to help out whenever we can. So
how's that going?
Really good. I'm amazed on how smart these animals are and how fast growing they are. It's just amazing by this fall how much meat we'll potentially get out of it.
So from the day that you get them as a little piglet to the day that you butcher them, how long does that take?
I think they were saying we were going to butcher up in August, and we got them somewhere in the middle of May. So
wow. So bacon next month.
Dude, I got a crazy story from the first time that we started raising hogs. And there's this guy, he's like I don't even know how to describe it. He's a guru of everything homesteading and rednecking, and he just latched on to us. And so his name was Shannon, and he was always over at our property, and he was helping us through this process of growing these pigs up. And they were only about maybe 35 to 45 pounds at the time. And then he just kind of says, well, you going to castrate them? And I was like, why would I do that? Well, if you don't, they're going to get mean. And I'm like, what do you mean mean? He goes, they'll take you out. A 350-pound pig will take you out. And I was like, well, okay, so how do we do this? Do I take him to a vet? He looks at me like, what? And then he goes, no, I'll be right back. So he comes back with a razor knife and some iodine. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, now you're going to have to get on top of this thing. So he flips the pig over upside down, so its feet are up in the air, right? And he goes, you're going to literally have to get on it. You're going to hold the back legs like this, and you're going to straddle that sucker. And you literally force your entire weight down onto this 40-pound pig or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to hurt it. He goes, oh, no, you are not going to hurt it. He goes, and I swear, he cut into that thing and popped the deal out. And that pig, I'm 240 pounds, guys. And I was struggling with every fiber of my being trying to keep this pig from knocking me off.
Please tell me you videotaped this and it's going to be coming up on a future episode.
That was pre-YouTube, man.
Oh,
but
man, you're killing.
You better respect the pig. They will.
That was gold.
You.
Yeah, they're fast. I'll tell you that too.
Oh, we've had them get out and chase them through briars and stuff. Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun.
So chickens, pigs, 150 foot by 100 foot garden. What else you got going there?
And then most of our time is spent harvesting firewood or kind of hunting when hunting season comes around. So,
how much meat do you think you get in a year, would you say? I mean, you go in with other guys on certain things, or how does it flesh out for your family?
A deer is kind of a big thing for us. We usually, or so far, have been really successful every year getting a deer. I do pretty well duck hunting, pheasant hunting. I mean, that's why I keep the dog around, and he does a good job at that. And the chickens, we usually butcher about 20 chickens in the springtime. In the past, we've done those broilers, but I think we're going to kind of move away from them just because they were a little hard to kind of look at when they kind of got a little closer to butchering. They were so big and getting to the point where they couldn't walk, and we just didn't like that. I mean, they weren't pumped with any steroids or anything like that, but it didn't look healthy to me, so we're kind of looking at doing a little different breed for our meat birds here in the future. And
so they look like Star Jones before the surgery?
Yes, they do.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then we have I don't know. And then sometimes we'll go in and buy a quarter of a cow or some different stuff like that. Or my wife's really into couponing, so sometimes we can go down and get like a tube of like turkey meat or something at a real good price or some of that stuff. So, but most of the meat that we consume is mostly all hunted for or kind of raised. And
well, now let me ask you the logistics on that, because you got to have a hunting license, and then you buy tags. Explain that. What's it cost? How does it work? And you're saying you get most of your meat from that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Minnesota. It's like $70 for like a family sportsman license, and what they kind of does is give you small game and fishing, and then you kind of have to buy like your other tags. There's a federal duck stamp, a state duck stamp if you do duck hunting, and then I usually do there's like another $4 thing if you want to do early goose season.
Because you got to make sure you pay the king for his duck.
Yeah, the ones that raised it. Well, I guess they release some and stuff, but and then. Let's see what else, and then pheasant stamp if you do pheasant hunting, and then of course the deer tag. I'm trying to think what it was. They just bumped the prices up maybe a year or two ago. So it's all said and done with me and my wife. And of course my daughter's under the age where she gets to do it for free. It probably costs us $100 for all the fishing and pretty much hunting that we can handle.
And that's not bad. I think most sportsmen, most hunters are the best conservationists out there, even though there's several people on the other side of the line that like to point to anybody that hunts for their food and call them all sorts of names and say that they're anti-nature, when in reality it's the sportsman's fees for those tags that really go for the conservation part. So I have no problem paying those fees when it comes to knowing that a lot of that money goes back into the environment, so to speak. But
and that money is used for a lot of good things.
How about when you're talking about out-of-state licenses? Any idea what they charge for somebody that's not a resident, that, say, lives 2 miles across the border but wants to hunt with you up in Minnesota? I mean, prices normally more than double on something like that.
They do go up quite a bit. My dad was talking about coming up a few years ago. I don't remember. I know it was quite a bit more. Like even just like a weekend pass, it was quite a bit more. Yeah, it has been a few years since I've hunted out of state.
It gets to be ridiculous for a guy that lives in North Carolina and owns property just over the border in South Carolina. I mean, the amount of money that they want to charge you for out-of-state hunting is ridiculous, and it's way beyond what they should. But
it almost think it'd be cheaper because now you're spending money to stay in a hotel and gas and food.
Right. Come to our state and spend money. No. They want to ding you before you even walk in the door. But we talked in a prior conversation where you said that you have been homesteading. I think you said 4 or 5 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Okay, about 5 years. And you said that at some point you had a goal in mind. You want to talk about what the end game is for this thing?
Yeah, currently right now I do work full time and my wife is a stay-at-home, and as time goes on, I'd like to kind of transition into kind of being able to find some way to do something at home. And I know it's kind of hard to make excuses for some of that, especially since that stuff was done by our grandparents, and there are so many more resources available today. The internet, you could start online businesses or sell stuff online. I mean, there's a lot more opportunity out here. So it's kind of getting the guts, I guess, to kind of make that plunge. And like you had mentioned, Tommy, kind of putting a plan together and, figure out some dollars, how much you actually need per month and how you're going to kind of get there. So
yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you remember that we talked about that. But what I found when I talk to people about this kind of thing is when you actually put pen to paper. Now, in your situation, your wife stays home and takes care of your daughter. But when both people are working and both people have cars and both people are driving, 30, 45 minutes and the price of gas and the babysitter, when you put it all together, sometimes you go, gee, if one of us stayed home, if just one of us stayed home, we'd only lose out after taxes on a few $100s a month. And it's a lot easier to make those two ends meet than, we're thousands of dollars apart. All of a sudden you're hundreds of dollars apart. I'm interested to see what you come up with. And document it, man, because there's a lot of people out there that are exactly in your situation. I know you wouldn't be the first guy to do it. Maybe there's other people out there that have done it, but I think that'd be an interesting series right there. Here's how I got off the grid and unplugged, something like that.
Yeah, I'd really like to do that. You do see like a lot of those kind of homesteaders out there, but a lot of times it's always a little bit of a gray area. They kind of leave it a mystery on how they do it. So yeah. That's something I'm working towards.
Well, and we found a lot of these guys have transitioned the stuff that they learned by going off grid, whether it be solar, whether it be water, whether it be homesteading of any kind, and they transition that into their business.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, that's pretty neat too.
Now coming from left field, and this is one that we have not talked about at all, and so if it's like, I don't know, you can just say I straight up don't know. But my family and we are very, very conscious of the chemicals that we put in our body from food, specifically food. And we try not to eat GMO food, and we try to stay away from all that garbage. And one of the big players in that is obviously Monsanto. Being that you're in farmland where I'm sure they're just inundated and assaulted by that company, do you know of anybody's thoughts around you, what they think about it? Do they feel like it's a necessary evil? Do they try to stay away from it? Are there ways you can stay away from it?
There are a handful of farmers, and I don't think they actually use those seeds around us. A lot of them are kind of at that retirement age where they're just kind of doing what they've been doing for years. But I know there are some others. there's a lot of farms and stuff around us that are closing up, especially like in our area. There's a lot of like dairy type farms that are starting to close up just because it's getting harder and harder to kind of compete with kind of the big boys. And then of course there's a lot of laws that are starting to get into place. Like I know Wisconsin, you can't buy raw milk. It might be even questionable in here in Minnesota. I haven't even looked in a while. I've heard of some places you can possibly have some fall in a cup or something, but there's just a lot of stuff like that. It's very frustrating to kind of watch kind of the small ma and pa farms kind of starting to close up, and it's just hard for a lot of them to compete.
So I've heard that, and I might get this wrong, but I heard the average age for a farmer in the United States was 58 years old. And they say that there's several things that's keeping younger people from coming in, and one of them is it's a tough job, especially dairy farming, right? I mean, it's 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you're up before the crack of dawn. It's tough work, and let's face it, we've become pretty soft, and a lot of us just don't want to do that work, myself included. Not pointing the fingers at anyone, Brad, but the other thing is like you said, these government regulations where they're just grinding these guys down to a nub, and they make it next to impossible. On the other side, I hear a lot about these government subsidies that come in for the farmers, and it ticks people like me off. You know, hey, why are we giving them subsidies? So which is it? Are we trying to run them out of business, or are we trying to give them a free ride? I don't know.
I don't know, to be honest. Some of it, I have to admit that when they kind of do some of those, like the conservation type things or some of the land, it does work out kind of nice if you get hunting opportunities on there, because sometimes there's some pretty good opportunities to get some birds and stuff. But yeah, it's a little frustrating. And I think some of those guys that do kind of opt up their land, there's usually like a several year kind of commitment for that type of stuff, and you can only do so much to your land, and you kind of have to let it be, I guess.
So what's going to happen to these farms once these guys retire? Is it going to be sold off, and you're going to have some developer come in and put up houses right next to each other? Is it going to be shopping malls, or?
That's one of my fears. I think we're far enough away right now that I don't see that being an issue, but it's amazing where you start seeing some of these places pop up and grow. Years ago we lived kind of right on the edge of town, and it wasn't too long until there wasn't much, property available anymore. Just all kind of cookie cuttered up, and houses popped up everywhere. So, yeah.
Well, now coming back full circle, we talked initially about some of the skills that people have lost over the years. And I'm going to give you a chance to think about this, but I want you to give your recommendation of something that would be farm-centric, homestead-centric. There would be a skill that you would say, this is a skill you got to know. You absolutely got to have this in your wheelhouse. What is one of the things that you would say is an important skill that people, for example, for me, I'll give an example. I did not know 4 years ago what it was to double dig a hole, literally to double dig a hole. And why would you ever want to do that? And so I learned that from my buddy Shannon, the redneck master, guru. He's a Jedi. But something simple like that. Why would I double dig a hole, and what is it? I mean, what would be something you would recommend?
That's
He's thinking through the thousands of things that he has to do on a daily basis. Come up with one.
What's your favorite song? What's your favorite song? One. Just pick one.
I don't know. And I just think just getting out there and starting to do it. Every year we learn something new. I mean, last year we had a real poor year for growing stuff, and I wish we would have done a few things different. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad we had that experience, because, we'll know, let's get, little starters kind of going, like little seeds and stuff inside early on, because in the past we've always just kind of plop stuff in the ground, because it's always a hit or miss here when spring is going to come in Minnesota, and sometimes you got stuff that's curling over in pots and the ground hasn't even thawed yet. In other years it's, I mean, this year we could have had stuff in probably at the beginning of May almost. So I think just getting out there and just
doing it.
Stuff
Just
in
get
the
out there
ground.
and
You
do
don't
it.
even have to have a big garden, just something small. Do, some cilantro or something, just some herbs or something, and just start getting some of that experience, and then, kind of going from there. Now how do I collect seeds from this for next year's garden, or
So
how do I preserve this? That's another thing we've really struggled with from year to year is preserving stuff, because that's going to be like big harvest day, and then we get inside, we're just exhausted. Like, oh, we'll deal with this tomorrow. Now suddenly it's like, we need to get this dealt with, or this stuff's going to go bad, and now it's a day of canning or a day of blanching and freezing, and there's just a lot of those type of things. You got to kind of start small, get your feet wet, and because even like our garden this year, we're having a heck of a time keeping up just with the weeds and some of that stuff. So
coming from a guy that doesn't live on a homestead yet, I realize all the stuff I don't know by just watching people like you guys on YouTube, right? I mean, you're talking about blanching and canning, and what I realized is when you're living in the suburban or the urban lifestyle, you don't know any of that stuff unless you grew up with it and you moved out, right? I mean, you don't know any of that stuff. So,
yeah.
But I would say, fellas, probably the most important thing to learn how to do, and I know all the women will agree with me, is learn how to say yes, dear. If you learn that, you got like 80% of the game done.
So, well, once again, thank you so much for your time, bro.
Hey, man, did we leave anything out? Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that maybe we didn't cover in the last 25 minutes or so?
I don't know. I'm sure as soon as we get done with this,
You'll think about it.
fine.
You can leave it in the comments section below.
Yeah.
Right. Well, guys, make sure you don't forget to go over to Eric's channel, Living in Farmland.
Life in farmland.
Life in Farmland. Yeah, but he's living in a farmland too.
Yeah, I live in
No,
La La Land.
Hey, actually, I just checked out a video that you did. Was it about a well pump?
Oh, septic. We had a few issues with our septic here not that long ago. And
Right on. And I was struck by your camera work and the fact that you did what I thought a pretty darn good video production. So I'm gonna check out some more of your videos. So I encourage everyone to go over and check out Eric's channel, Life in Farmland.
Life in
I
farmland.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.